Good morning out there. How is everybody doing today? Super fun to be here with you for this really exciting day all about AI with Logix. There's some fabulous sessions today. I see a few people, Julia in the chat for sure. Super nice to see you, Julia, in the chat already this morning. We're so excited to be here with you this morning or this afternoon, depending on where you're joining us from. It's going to be a fabulous day, and we're kicking it off in this room right now with Emma Coche, and we're going to talk AI for impactful infographics. Emma's short link is there. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Bailey. I'm here to be your voice when you share questions in the chat. I will pipe up and ask Emma those questions for you. And I'm also here if you have some technical support you need. I'll try my best to help you with that. I'm joining you from Treaty 6 in Alberta today. Treaty 6 is a traditional home of many nations around this area. I'm most familiar and so happy to share this area with the Cree people of the plains, and it's just been a lovely experience learning and growing in reconciliation, and I'm happy to share with you my treaty today. Emma, I'm so happy to be here with you, and I'll pass it over to you to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Bailey. Of course, it's a pleasure to be working. Bailey and I have done this for a few years now, and it's just always nice to reconnect. But good morning, everyone, or maybe almost lunchtime for some of you. But Bailey and I'm as far west coast as you can possibly get in Canada. I am just outside of Victoria. So my name is Emma Cottier. I'm a full-time on the front lines grade 8 teacher, also facilitator for Logix. I come to you from the beautiful traditional lands of our West Saanich people. It's just a gorgeous coastal. If you ever look at Vancouver Island, I'm literally at the very, very, very bottom of there. So I'm actually below the Canadian border. So a little geography for you there. But it is a pleasure. And what kind of my hope with was these infographics is to kind of play with this AI world, but maybe make something tangible for your classroom, because some of us are like playing and dabbling and collecting information, but now like what can you do with that? So that was my hope today. And so I've already told you I'm from the traditional lands of the West Saanich people. I've grown up here. I went to school here and I teach here. I actually teach in the same school district that I went to school in. So these lands are very near and dear to my heart, and always being immersed in the local culture. It's just truly been an honor. Just a little bit of Logix. If you're new to us today, we dabble in all sorts of STEM solutions, but we are a Microsoft Education Global Training Partner. We're a Google Cloud partner. We do a fabulous selection of Minecraft things, and we're also an Apple professional provider. So, like I said, we're just dabbling all sorts. And Julia, no problem. I'm happy to be up early for you today. In fact, this is what I call my power hour. I do my best things in the morning. If you are interested in STEM solutions, we have a whole range. I actually have a 4-year-old. So this cute little guy on the bottom left actually have Tailbot, a total game changer. So feel free to check out our website, logixacademy.com. I am still amazed by all the solutions that we have available, and I'm still learning about them. So if you are in the market, feel free to check it out. If you're also interested in some free programming for your students, like I said, I'm also on the front lines. I'm a full-time 1.0 grade 8 teacher. I know you can't see the individual sessions, but we have a ton of free programming coming up for Computer Science Education Week. So let us just teach your class. It's going to be offered at 2 times, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So you will be able to find me again in that 10 a.m. because that is like my power hour. That's where we are right now. So feel free to check out our programming, or even just register for what's interesting to you, because then you'll just get the recording sent to you. A huge thank you to Microsoft. We're actually going to be diving into the world of Gemini, but Microsoft is extremely generous. They just wanted teachers to basically get more exposure to AI in various platforms, just to kind of broaden understanding and an ability to play with it. So just a huge thank you to Microsoft for doing this incredible AI summit. There was such an appetite for it, and that was wonderful to see. Our specific plan today, we are going to explore the potential of Gemini. So Gemini is connected to Google, Copilot is Microsoft, and ChatGPT is kind of its own little entity, but kind of connected to Microsoft more. All are wonderful. All kind of have some strengths over the other in different ways. So because on the front lines where I work, we are kind of a Google on a student front and Microsoft on a teacher front. I just thought I'd show you this particular one. And what my plan is like I said, is to take this information that we collect through AI and turn it into like a purposeful and tangible item for our students, because that's where I feel a barrier is with AI now that some people are into prompting and seeking information, but now what can we do with some of it? So through this session, I'm going to design with you what I think is a super awesome 8.5 by 11 infographic for your classroom wall. And you're going to have some flexibility to choose kind of your topic, because different topics are going to fit with different classrooms, but maybe you're thinking student agency or organization or quality work, just those underlining principles that regardless of the subject that we're choosing, just underlining principles that we can drive home to students, because then maybe if they're not watching me, they're at least like looking at information on the wall. And I just kind of like to reinforce visual communications are huge. It's how a lot of us learn these days. So why not fill our classrooms with just constant information for students to process? I am really curious in the chat, how do you currently feel about Gemini? Like maybe number one is you haven't dove in there, and this is a safe place. Don't worry if you haven't, because that's the whole purpose of today, is to gain exposure to different AI tools. Maybe you're just like a number two, like, I don't know, mixed feelings about it. Maybe three, it's like an okay, I'm diving in there. And then number four, and I think I'm creeping towards a number four. I'd say I'm a solid 3.8. Like typical teachers, we like to use decimals. But I'm about a 3.8. I've come to realize that Gemini really streamlines a lot of my productivity. It gives me a lot of inspiration. It just, because I make content all day long. I make worksheets and templates. It's my bread and butter. So I more and more I was like, I can't imagine my life without Gemini now. So let me know, Bailey, what's your go-to? And it's okay if it's a different AI platform.
Yeah, Gemini wasn't my go-to because it wasn't turned on in my division until like 3 weeks ago. So it's new for me. I'm still figuring out kind of the workflow of prompting it. It's different than the other. I use ChatGPT most often, probably, but it's a little bit of a different prompting system, and I'm still figuring it out. I like it for some things. For other things, I still prefer my my ChatGPT system.
Yeah.
And we have a few people in the chat. Robin has never used it, which means that Robin's in the correct place to learn about Gemini today. And Julia took the Gemini AI course through Google, the AI Essentials course.
Yes, that is lovely. I've also taken that, Julia. I don't work for Google, but a little plug. It is a great course. And if you're looking for just kind of more information about prompting and things to consider, how AI can even help you. And believe it or not, and maybe this is a great segue just to mention, every single one of us is actually using AI, but maybe it's recognizing where AI, like even just the spell checks, the grammar checks, the thesaurus, like those are all kind of versions of AI. So some of us are actually dabbling with AI without even realizing, because you don't necessarily have to go to like a Gemini or Chat GPT to be using AI. A lot of like built-in features are already dabbling in there. So I love that. Thank you. Continue to share. Now you might be thinking like, why infographics? So why even, teachers are busy machines, and why infographics? Now, number one, just that enhanced visual learning. Like I said, if students aren't looking at me, they drift and attention's drift, then at least they're looking at something and kind of pulling off kind of bite-sized nuggets of information. They're really eye-catching. They're easily digestible. They cater to visual. I've really, especially like through the pandemic, I really realized I'm a visual learner. If someone's speaking and they don't have slides, I have to be honest, I don't always pick up on all the information. The second is just improved information retention. If you're constantly being exposed to information, your brain is taking in more and more of it. So studies have shown that visual aids can really significantly improve information retentions, because we know as teachers, we feel like broken records sometimes saying the same thing over and over, and reminders, and these infographics can help with that. Number 3, I realized through COVID, we kind of went through some apathy. I felt that in the classroom where students, it took them a bit to kind of, and I feel like we're almost, I don't want to use the word normal because what's normal, but I feel like we kind of entered this dip where students were just used to have kind of free-flowing schedules, and it was kind of harder to sit in chairs. But I really have felt through these infographics that I create, I'm kind of enhancing that student engagement, and I'm getting more buy-in from the students. But I'm also creating an environment where parents feel more supported as well, because sometimes I make them on the parent friends, because we know parents all have their hearts in the right places, but sometimes they don't know how to best support their students. So sometimes I do it to support, the families and things at our school. And don't worry, I have a ton of infographics just to share with you as a token of appreciation of being with me today. So a little inspiration here, and we're going to actually pop over to these and look at them more in person. But my first one, Bailey, if you can just switch to over to my slides. Awesome. I want to just kind of show you, and these are all through AI that I've generated them. My first one, this is like how I kickstart this school year. It's my classroom non-negotiables. And all these are linked directly through the slide deck, and Bailey can always drop that slide deck link. But when I click on them, so all the images are linked, these are my non-negotiables. So I use Gemini to simply come up with like a definition, because sometimes students don't always know this is my non-negotiable. So it's an expectation that's essential for creating a safe, respectful, and productive learning environment. And then I use Gemini to come up with I thought were non-negotiables. And you can also generate these with your class. But when I went to Gemini, I was like, yes. And Gemini will also give you these little descriptions. So we came up with respect, to participate, to be prepared, to follow instructions, cleanliness, technology, just the use and respect for it. We are, of course, under a phone ban in BC anyway. Integrity. And so I just come up with these non-negotiables. So this just information that really just helps set the stage for your classroom. So that was slide number 14. Then another one, because this I made last year, because I felt like I was really working with apathy, and students just, I felt a number of my students just didn't care or didn't really know what student agency looked like. So again, I called on Gemini to like, okay, let's brainstorm examples of what student agency looks like. And this is linked to slide number 14. And I went up with some examples. So first of all, I always define it. I use Gemini to define it. And I'll even prompt it something like, Gemini, could you please come up with a 100-word, like I set the parameter of how many I want, words, a 100-word description of what student agency looks for grade 8 students. And of course, you would adjust that if you have a lower grade or a higher grade, but you can specifically ask Gemini to curate your content for the specific age group. So with Gemini, we came up with these specific examples for student agency of asking questions. Again, to participate, setting goals, taking notes, collaborating, reflecting on learning, study techniques, teaching others, seeking feedback, and staying curious. But lastly, the delivery. And then I put what student agency does not look like. I'll maybe not go over this, is a little obnoxious with middle school, but then I put in the non-examples. So you can choose if you want to share those non-examples or not. But again, all created through Gemini to help brainstorm. And what thing I love about Gemini is sometimes I don't always remember all the aspects of student agency, and through Gemini, I can come up with a pretty comprehensive list. Slide number 15, we did a mental health survey with our school. That mental health has been our big school goal. And we, broke it down into categories. And one of the biggest things that was evident to us is friendships and social things. And we had a number of students that were just struggling to make a friend and didn't have those strategies to make one. So again, I called on my friend Gemini and said, Gemini, let's brainstorm some strategies to help students make a friend. So out came this slide deck. And you can see that this is my color scheme. I always kind of pull palettes off the internet. And then what I also did is used Gemini to curate the images to go with it. So how to make a friend, join a club or a sports team, volunteer, try a new role, try a new activity, attend school events, be friendly and approachable, start conversations, be a good listener. And sometimes you might think, oh no, my students don't need, but students do need reminders, right? Sometimes they just kind of forget. Be patient. It takes time to make new friends. Don't get discouraged. And don't be afraid to reach out. So I made these kind of 10 strategies for making a friend. Great for the start of the year. All images, all information, all generated from Gemini. And you might think, Emma, like, how do you all have your images with the same color tones? I simply ask Gemini when they're creating me an image for volunteering to create it in pink and green tones. So everything kind of flowed together. So if you're interested in that, that's on slide number 16. This one, not so much Gemini, but I just wanted to toss it in for fun. It's just, when is it okay to interrupt me? It's just an infographic, not so much Gemini. But students kind of know these are the only appropriate times to interrupt. I'd like to take note of Ryan Reynolds. They can always interrupt me when Ryan Reynolds just has magically shown up at my classroom. Now, here are a few. So 17, 18, 19, and 20 are kind of in line with what we're doing today. This is kind of my vision. You can see there's different color tones and different topics. So when I show you these ones, these are the ones to kind of brainstorm what would be maybe a good fit for you. So this one, because I teach grade 8, our goal is, to set them up for success in high school. And maybe I'll even pop it into slideshow mode so it's easier to see here. But I always had parents being like, my kid says they don't have homework, or, they'd ask how's school today, and the student would be like, I'm fine. So I've actually made this infographic. I've put it on my website, but I've also sent it home as a PDF to parents. But what does 30 minutes of homework actually look like? Maybe it's reading, maybe it's editing and revising in your Google Doc, maybe it's practicing a few math questions, but really just driving home. Because now I no longer get the my kid says they don't have homework. My kid says they don't have any homework. Boom, here's the infographic. And I send it to all parents. So all parents get the same kind of messages over and over. And it just makes for a really great connection between home and school. So that gets sent home in September, start of the school year. In September, slide number 18, again created with Gemini, is what does quality work actually look like? So here are the examples I came up with Gemini. And of course, if you like any of those infographics, you are more than welcome to just make a copy, put your own customizations, or if you love it, boom, there you have it. So these infographics, they are yours to just use and enjoy any way you'd like. But again, really just driving home key principles. I find when I go over a poster like this, the quality of the work in my classroom does improve. So that's slide number 18. Slide number 19. Again, images are all linked, all made with Gemini, ways to support middle school learners. So these are similar: the self-advocacy, the reading, the revising, solid routine, watching screen time. And they're an ideal, right? I know it's not always going to work for all parents at any given time, but again, this goes home. I send it home to parents because in parent teacher conferences, they're always keen, and they say, oh, how can I support my learner? So I, again, just send these home at PDFs, and you have them. And they're all 8.5 by 11s. 8.5 by 11s, they look great digitally, but we know 8.5 by 11 is letter size. So you can just print and print and print, use them any way you'd like. Slide number 20. And again, this is linked. Organization. Like, what does organization look like? And you might be like, oh, Emma, this is getting repetitive. But these, I kind of have a 4x4 grid. I know there's 5 of them, but I line these up on my classroom wall, and I'm just constantly driving home the same concepts. So here's organization: using a calendar, titling your work, taking 30 seconds at the end of each class to organize, decluttering, again, driving. And these are great reminders for adults too, because trust me, like, we all see classrooms that aren't always totally organized as well. So just fundamental concepts. And one last one, I won't go into it too detailed, but again, these are all linked. I've also made an 8.5 by 11 of student agency, all made with Gemini. I'll just pop this into a bigger screen so you can see it. But just putting, these are the same things that were in my slide deck. I just made it in an infographic as well. And they look sharp. Like I said, I have these printed and laminated. Staples is kind of my go-to place because I love just the quality of their color printing, and it's not very expensive. I just send them, they get printed, they get laminated. I think it's like $1 to $2 per infographic. It's a really great price point. Some of you might be able to do in-house printing, and that is awesome as well. But just like I said, just making classrooms a vibrant, inviting, but just always constantly driving home those fundamental aspects towards learning. Whew, that was like a power round of infographics. I might just pause for a minute because we're about to dive into Gemini. Bailey, did I miss any questions in there?
I wanted to reiterate though that the slide deck link is in the YouTube chat below, and it's bit.ly/impactful infographics, and there's a lot of Emma's really wonderful resources in there, so you're definitely going to want to grab that.
Yeah, Julia, you are so sweet, but honestly, sharing is caring. You can share my infographics far and wide. I do not mind, and honestly, they take me about 12 minutes to make. So
I was going to say, you feel less precious about it once you realize how quickly you can pull them together using Gemini. And
yeah, you are so sweet, Julia, but don't, sharing is caring. And honestly, if they end up with someone else's name down the road, it doesn't. I just think if it benefits students, it's fine with me. So share them far and wide. Oh yeah, you might be. How do you make the character? It is Bitmoji. That's kind of a session for another day. Bitmoji you can do like through your phone. It's an app or it's a Chrome extension, depending on what your district allows. But again, sometimes Bailey and I know a Bitmoji can just say it best sometimes. So let's talk about Gemini, how to get there, how to do some prompting, all sorts of things. So Gemini is simply www.gemini.google.com, and you can get there. Now I'm going to pop out here. I have mine loaded right here. Now, this is something to consider. My school district, and they're very cautious about the rollout of AI, which is great. I very much respect them for that. So I am actually on my personal Gmail in Gemini right now. So if your district doesn't have Gemini turned on, just recognize that that's okay. Many school districts do not have it turned on. So if they do have it turned on, you'll be able to get through it through your school one. If you don't, you can see that I have multiple emails here. So if I want to go to Gemini, I just have to be in my personal ones. You can see this is my Gmail. My school one, if I click on it, it'll say I do not have access to it. So this is just a little minute. So again, you would go to gemini.google.com, and it'll say this site can't be reached because it's automatically linked to my school one. But gemini.google.com, and you will be able to get there. Okay, so maybe take a minute right now and get there. And while you're logging in, I'm going to just toss out some prompt examples. You are certainly not limited to these. And thanks, Bailey. She's dropped the link to gemini.google.com. Again, if you go with your school email and you can't get in, hopefully you have a personal Gmail that you can fall back on to, make the most of this session. Here are some just prompt examples. What are 10 ways to be a kind human being in a middle school environment? So sometimes when I feel my students are getting that like cabin fever, and now it's kind of about the time that they start doing it because they're extra comfortable with each other and they kind of recognizes people's strengths and weaknesses. So sometimes we pause and we use Gemini, and honestly, I have an infographic on how to be a kind human. Maybe it is, what is a list of 10 organizational strategies? Maybe it's, what are 10 things a student can do to minimize feelings of anxiety? So maybe it's strategies for stress and anxiety, because mental health is the big focus at our school right now. What are 10 different ways a student can advocate for their learning at school? So you'll notice my prompts are really specific, and don't be afraid to even put like for a grade 2 learner or for a grade 8 learner, because Gemini, will kind of customize the information. And when you ask for 10 ways, they're going to make it in a nice little list for you. So right now, if you can, go over to Gemini, and I'm going to do the first one. And I think I'll kind of go with the kindness. What are 10 ways that a middle school student can be, or students, can be kind to each other? Question mark, enter. Gemini is thinking, look at that list. Boom. Shoop. So those then become the kind of content for my infographic. And in true AI fashion, it's important to know, please always read over the information you get from Gemini. On occasion, and Google calls it, if you've taken the course, they call it a hallucination, because what kind of AI does, it does like a quick scan of web information. And this is a great conversation to have with your students too, is when it does a quick scan, it's not always going to be 100% accurate. So you always kind of have to have that critical thinking lens. So I'm going to read over, 10 ways for a middle school student to be kind. Number 1, offer a helping hand. Boom, I love it. Spread compliments, include others, listen actively, be a good sport, practice empathy, stand up for others, be a positive influence, and volunteer your time and practice random acts of kindness. I love those. The other beautiful acts of Gemini is you could even substitute in one of your ideas, right? You're not limited to including these. These are simply suggestions. Or you can even go back and refine your prompt and see what else it asks you. So take a minute right now. I just want to give you just like 2 minutes, and for you to ask Gemini to make a list. Maybe it's kindness, maybe it's organization, maybe it's homework, maybe it's just like a subject you want to teach and you want to just drive home, a few key points. Totally up to you. Make a list.
I'm thinking about metacognitive reading strategies. That's been on my mind all week. So now
reading strategies. Yeah. Bailey, you've inspired me. What a good one. I'm making note of that. Reading Stay tuned, everyone. That might be my next
Send it to me, please.
infographic.
What are 10
Reading.
ways students can make predictions about the novels they're reading?
Yes, reading strategies. And even, you know what, like critical thinking strategies.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, I'm getting major inspiration today. Critical thinking. Because we talk about these like big words all the time, right? We use them in our dialogue when we're teaching, but sometimes we pause and we need to remember, like, students may not know exactly like what those look like. And the beautiful part is once you have these infographics, they're there at your disposal all the time. Like, I love when I'm teaching now on any different topic, like, boom, here's a visual, boom, here's a visual. And you can, you know, I add them to the Google Classroom, I put them on my website, I send them home. It's just like, whatever you need, I got it. Let us know in the chat if you had a list that you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. I love this content. Gemini, where have you been all my whole life?
Looks like Julia's ready. Julia must have had an idea right away of what they wanted. I'm
Feel
thinking
free
it was
to share, like, what was your inspiration? Because, like I said, I'm always in the market to make a new infographic.
I was going to guess that Julia's was about new teachers.
Top 10
10s.
technology skills. Oh,
I love that.
Julia,
Skills,
taking
attitudes,
note
and
of that.
dispositions. That's awesome.
Get my pen out here. Julia, whew, we need to meet in real life sometime.
I had an inspiration, Emma. I need to share it while we have our little brainwaves happening here. I was working with some people supporting early math skills. So I was thinking about maybe like what are 10 phrases adults might say to help students talk about their math learning.
Oh,
so encouraging that process. I would definitely have to work on that prompt a little bit, but I think
phrases to help with math learning.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because, yeah, asking for help is it takes a lot of courage for learners.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, Julie, you're near Danny. Oh, Julia. Okay, I love it. Yes, Danny. I know Danny very well. Love it. Love it. We love Danny. Love Danny. So, oh, this is really hitting home here. You taught Danny. Oh, Julia, I love it. Well, we have the pleasure of working with Danny. So now that we have information, or hopefully you have information, and it's okay to go back and, you know, refine those prompts. But now we need to start. This is, I think, the big challenge for teachers. I got information with Gemini. What do I do with it, right? What do I do with it? And I'm going to show you a quick and easy way. Sorry, Robin said 10 ways to grade 9 students consist. Oh, yes, for career. 10 ways for grade 9 students to succeed at career-ready internships. Oh, I am loving. See, that's why collaboration is like so good. A reminder, this is probably not new information, but Google Slides you can open through your Drive, through your apps launcher, or simply just slides.new in a new tab. We will be doing, and I'm going to do this design process with you. We're going to make an 8.5 by 11 because 8.5 and 11, it lives perfectly both digitally and on paper. And those are the things that just makes life so much easier. You might also want to consider if you want to do an 8.5 by 14, those print great in school as well. And I'm sure this is the case at most school. Kind of the biggest I can print is 11 by 17. So those are basically my printing options at school. So when I'm designing things, I decide like how big, what size paper do I want this on? Because when things live beautifully in both worlds, I feel it just makes our lives that much easier. All templates are our shapes. It simply just comes down to shapes, and I'll show you that. I have a big crush on the rounded rectangle, but I think for today I'll just, use our standard issue rectangle. So our design plan is really that simple. Hopefully, as I'm speaking, you can start opening up a new Google Slide presentation. decide on your page setup that you would like. Do you want 8.5 by 11? Do you want 8.5 by 14? Do you want to really drive home those kind principles and be an 11 by 17? And then we are simply going to pull it all together with some word art and some shapes. And here's where you need to give yourself a positive affirmation. Everyone is a designer, honestly. Bailey knows I design day in, day out, but it really, once you see it, you're like, oh, I can totally do that. It's really simple things, but when you put them together, it creates beautiful, beautiful things. So here we go. Here is, let me just close off some of these tabs here so we don't get lost in that. I will leave my Gemini open. But here is my blank Google Slides. And by the way, I'm kind of digging how they're suggesting these templates. Those are kind of a new addition. But I'm going to close that off. And when I'm designing, because I like to start with a fresh canvas, I like to think of myself as like, a digital painter. I like to just toss my colors everywhere, but I like to start with a blank layout. So layout, blank, or just click and delete those boxes. But I like to be on a fresh canvas. Bailey, I'm open to, should we maybe do reading strategies today?
Let's do it.
We're just going to.
And then I don't have to do it on Monday.
Yeah. Reading strategies, infographics. So I always put infographics. So when I'm searching in my drive, I can just find them all at once because, like I said, I have a lot of infographics, but when I put that keyword infographic and I search for it, I get all at once. So then I can just pick what most applies. Now, under File, and you're going to need to go kind of way down. Some of you, depending on your screen size, might even have to scroll. But we're going to go all the way down to Page Setup. And we want to hit Custom. So mine kind of defaults, I think, to the widescreen 16:9, the ratio. We want to go down to Custom, select inches first. And this is kind of a great, math connection here. Your X value, right? Your horizontal value goes first. So my horizontal value is going to be the 8.5. Boop. Right? It's your XY, your Cartesian plane, and my Y value is 11. So just know if you ever want to do an impromptu math lesson with your students, it does X value first, Y value, just like in math. So horizontal, then vertical. Boom. Here I have. So now I have my 8.5 by 11. Now I know when we are searching, we did 10 items, but I typically only design with 9 items because sometimes I always find there's just like one that doesn't fit or one that I don't love as much, but it also gives me the flexibility where I don't have to use all the suggestions of Gemini. So 9 is kind of the 3x3 grid, kind of fits the nicest. So before I start doing that, I'm going to choose a background color. Now, I know this isn't a design lesson, but I have to just tell you this. This top row is design death. It's design death. Please try to avoid it because look, it's just soft on the eyes, right? Please try and avoid that line. This row underneath, like look at the difference here. I hope you instantly feel calmer just looking at that color. So a little sidebar, or in true Emma fashion, you'd kind of mix and blend your own kind of custom. I live on the left side with the gray tones. So no matter if it's purple or pink or green or blue, if you live on this side, they're a lot softer because these are going to be your really bright hues in the top right. And again, I know this is an AI day, but these are fundamental ways of just like communicating information. So a nice soothing color. I'm pretty happy with that. Then all it is, check this out. We're just going to use the basic rectangles. So the shape menu, and if I'm going too fast, honestly, just let me know. And I think this is also, it's being recorded, so you'll get it as well. But I'm just going to add a rectangle. I'm just going to add a simple rectangle, and I'm going to make it look like a box. Notice I'm not even worried about placement at this part. I'm not even worried about it. A little design strategy for you here. Notice I'm going to go back to my original color, and you're going to be like, Emma, that just blends in. I'm like, I know. But then if you go back in and just go a little bit darker, So when you're designing, if you go a little bit lighter or a little bit darker, it just makes everything flow together really nicely. So you can see that's a little bit darker. Once you have one box, because don't add a box at a time and then like recolor, it's super time consuming. We're going to use my favorite design trick, Control D to duplicate. Control D, look at that. And we're going to put it beside, Control D to duplicate, put it beside. Yeah, Control D is your best friend. But I can click and drag and get all three of those, Control D and duplicate. So again, I've just duplicated all of those. Control D to duplicate. I now have all 9 of my boxes ready to go. Then I can click and drag and highlight those, and I can make it so that they fit my page perfectly. So again, don't spend tons of time like moving the boxes. Make one, format it the color you want it, Control D to duplicate. And now you can also see that these are perfectly symmetrical. And I'm even going to go back and show you that again really quickly. I'm going to delete these. Control D to duplicate. Set it your desired space apart. Those red alignment tools will tell you that it's, directly in line with the other one. Duplicate your other one, line it up, use the alignment tools so those are exactly apart. Now, I've just clicked and dragged, or a little fun fact, if you hold down Shift on your keyboard and click the items you want, that works as well. I'm going to duplicate. I'm using my arrow keys, duplicate. I could use my trackpad or my cursor. Boom, I now have my boxes. Now, all I do is add in some word art. We're going to call this reading strategies. And Arial's okay. I don't personally love Arial. Poppins is kind of my go-to because you want those high visibility fonts so students can read it really nicely. And maybe we'll just make it. I'm just going to keep it simple today. You can kind of format, or a little trick if you really like my titles on the other ones, just copy them. Just copy them and adjust them. Because what did I do here? What does student agency look like? I could even go back here, copy them, come back to my reading strategies one, paste them. I just need to adjust these because these boxes are too big now. Look at that. What are, and then we'll change it. Reading strategies, word art, you just need to double click. What are reading strategies? Bailey, what should we call it? What do you want to call this? Or what do reading strategies look like?
I was going to say, I love that phrase, what do reading strategies look like?
Okay, what do reading strategies look like? Boom, look at us go. Well, I need to go back to Gemini and get my information. So Bailey, feel free to help me with the prompt here, but what are 10 effective reading strategies? Are you middle school? What age are you?
Yeah, let's do middle school.
Okay, what are 10 effective reading strategies for middle school learners?
Let's do middle school learners who are struggling with reading comprehension.
Oh, who are struggling with reading. I like this. Comprehension. Okay, let's see what Gemini comes up with. Oh, look at that, Bailey. Preview the
I was
text.
hoping it would be things like this. This is perfect. Yeah.
Oh, look at that. So I am then going to take a screenshot depending on your device. I could keep flipping screens, but honestly, that drives my brain bonkers. So I'm just going to steal a little screenshot. I'm going to capture this information. You could also copy and paste it into a Google Doc. You have lots of strategies, but I'm a designer here. So now I have these strategies, and I need to make them bigger so I can read them. So my first one, and by the way, once you have the boxes, don't add text boxes. You can click and go right in the shapes. So preview the text. And I would add the other details after. Set a purpose. And Bailey, I'm going to finesse this for you, by the way. Activate prior knowledge. I'm just simply typing in the boxes. Visualize. Question. summarize, infer, monitor comprehension, and Bailey, you have reread or discuss with others. What one do you like better?
Let's do discuss with others.
Okay. So boom. Now, if I highlight all these boxes again, I can pick my font. I'll go Poppins again. We want contrast. Julia, I copied my title from one of my examples. Oh, and how,
Julia, I think if you give us some more details about your question,
yeah,
we'll
or
be
it
able
might
to
be
answer
word
it,
art. So now I can make these bigger if you want, or you might choose to go back and enter the other ones. You can choose. So now I have the strategies. Oh, Julia, it is insert word art. Word art. Yeah. Word art I love because it allows you to like manipulate a little bit, but also feel free to go back to any one of my examples and copy it. So now we have our information. I like my numbering. Like if I go back here to see my numbering, and of course you can go in and copy them, but I want to just show you how I do it. So I just simply make a circle. And if you hold down shift, it will make a perfect circle. And just simply fill color it. I'm going to do the really dark color. I think that will do a nice contrast. And I'm going to type right in it. Again, I'm just adding shapes and then formatting my text in the shapes. Poppins, let's go like black, big, bold. And let me make this text white so you can actually see it, Bailey. Make it a little bit bigger. Maybe we'll go 28. So look at that. I have a number. Once I have one number, duplicate. This is now our second reading strategy. Now duplicate. This will be our third reading strategy. And those look pretty. If you're wondering like, I truly want to make sure they're aligned. If I hold down shift, under your right click, you also have alignment tools. I can align vertically top. Woo, that looks pretty good. And then duplicate. And this will be, I think I sort of have those aligned. 4, 5. Again, you can type directly in shapes. Don't even bother with text boxes. I'm doing word art and shape. Word arts and shapes. That's the only kind of design features I'm doing. Duplicate. I'm moving those down. I think that's in line or close enough anyway. And this will be 7.
Just while you're numbering those, Emma, I think this is so helpful to watch how you put this together, because I know when I look at your finished product, I get a little overwhelmed. Like it looks so nice, but really all you've done is created one row and duplicated it, which is like the key to making this come together relatively quickly, right?
Totally. Just make you could even just make your first circle and the box here and just duplicate it for all the rest of them. So what I would suggest, like if I was making I am going to make this for Bailey's classroom. I'm definitely going to finish it off. But you might decide then to put the other information you collected from Gemini, which said, and I'm going to have to kind of pop it down to a smaller font so it fits. Before reading, skim, and I'm just literally typing it word from Gemini, skim the title, headings, and images to get an overview of the topic. So I fit that in there. This particular one might be a little too big, but all I do is kind of bold the headings, or you want to make it a little darker. But I'd say that looks pretty good. We just have preview the text, and then we have the little thing. If you're like, okay, I love that formatting of the first one, and I don't want to go back and change my other ones, you can copy and paste and then simply adjust it for your next one. So your next one was set a purpose. and then I can go through and adjust the text. And that was determine why you're, I love this one, you're reading the text. Like, I think so many students are like, because I have to, because my teacher told me I do. Like, but just really more like thinking about their learning and going through the process. Are you looking for information, enjoying a story, or learning a new skill? Boom. If your numbers are in the way, you can simply just move them up as well, right? You can just constantly be adjusting them. Or you can kind of move them to the side if you need to as well. But I think this is coming along really well. Now, I know on my examples, I had these little graphics. There is a couple websites, and some of them require, there's the Noun Project, there's Flat Icon. It's honestly what's comfortable with you and your district. You can even just search the web. But if I was doing preview the text, a website that I do love, and I have an account here, so I can get as many as you like, but you can get a number for free. I could just type in something like read, and that was flighticon.com. But I can just go in and I can copy. So say if I like this one, actually this one, they're previewing the text, Bailey. PNG, that means there's no white background. I'm going to copy it and paste it in. So if you do want like little icons to go with, I'll just kind of stick it in there for now. But you can, students are visual beings. So that's kind of like what I do to make these templates. I am more than happy to show an aspect again if you felt that I went too fast or that was like, okay, Emma, that was a little much. I will definitely be finishing off this infographic today. And if you do want this, you can always reach out to Logix Academy. I'm happy to share it and they can send it to you as well. Or what I might, anyway, just showing these things. So I'm going to go back to my presentation if there's no questions about that. And maybe what I'll do, of course it went. Oh, there we go. I'm going to give you about 2 minutes right now just to not hear my voice and maybe just work on a couple little design aspects. And Bailey and I will be available if you have a question, but go try out some designing. Oh, Nancy, what did you use to create your images with the same color palette? Here's a little design trick. All I do is I go to Google and I search for color palettes. And I find something that I love, like these colors look really nicely together. And I just copy color palettes and I put them right beside my design. And then you can pick out the colors. Oh, what did you use to create your images with the same? All I would do, let me go to Gemini here. Maybe you even want a reading one. Please create me an image. Now, this is a good kind of AI here. Gemini will not create anything revolving people, which I actually kind of love about it. So it can't do portraits or people or like students, but I could say, please create me an image of a book with gray and blue tones. I do something like that, hit enter, and let's see what comes up with Gemini. Not bad. So those are kind of similar tones. If you can also do things like this. Please create me an illustration. I find when I do.
Can I give you a prompt, Emma?
Yeah. Sure.
Again, because this is the teacher I'm building this for, that you're building it for now. Okay. Create an illustration of a bookshelf with pink and light green books.
Ooh.
I think we all have an image in our mind of what this teacher's classroom looks like, right?
Okay.
I'm curious.
Yeah, and Julia makes a great point. Like accessibility is huge. Oh, that's
Mm.
kind of fun.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
It works. You can play around with it. And every time, even if you did the same prompt again, you would get a different option. But yeah, keep in mind colors that work well with kiddos, and contrast. Contrast is key. So we're hoping, Bailey and I are hoping that you were able to design something or have kind of the understanding of how to quickly make an infographic based off the content that you get from AI, right? Because we don't want to just like copy and paste AI stuff. Like we want to kind of take it and manipulate it and put it in a way that works for our students, our families. Now, you might be wondering, okay, what do I do with this infographic? Number one, send it directly to the printer. Number two, you can download it as a PDF. So if I go back here and show you, but I'm going to finish this one off. File, download as a PDF. Now, PDF is where formatting goes to die, but PDFs also make it just regardless of what devices people have at home. Not all families may be comfortable doing the Google thing at home. Stick it as a PDF and then anyone can kind of access. Or you can download it as a JPEG and add it to an email or website. So this is my teacher website here. It's just simply a Google site. But I wanted to show you, like, I stick these things on my website all the time. And every time when they check their daily learning activities, they can see there's another one right here. I just pop them on my websites. They look really slick. I even just make little icons and things, but I'm always just driving home information in a way that makes it so user friendly and without maybe a lot of reading sometimes. So they can quickly see, instead of reading like a whole blurb on field trips, it's just broken down by day. And it just, like I said, it makes it really easy for my families, or I hope it does anyway. So 3 locations for that. I showed you my website, so I toss examples on my website. And as, again, a true token of my appreciation for allowing me to kickstart your day on this fabulous AI Summit day, I have made you a mindfulness poster. This one's an 11 by 14, and it's on slide number 37. So if you are looking for just some daily mindfulness practices, this is already designed for you. Share it far and wide with whoever you would like. I have an email etiquette one. This one is great. I don't remember the name. I'm sorry, but I know someone was interested in things for career prep and those kind of things. Email etiquette is huge, right? Reply alls make us cringe. So there's an email etiquette, or they make me cringe anyway. I shouldn't. If it doesn't pertain to everyone, we don't reply all people. And then, of course, feel free to check out logicsacademy.com. We're always having free workshops and opportunities. Check out this lineup. I will be doing a Minecraft one if you are interested in seeing me again, but so many wonderful offerings for Computer Science Education Week. If you just are interested in more, logicsacademy.com. Now, can you reshare your website? I didn't actually link my website, but I can do it if you want, because watch this. View published site. Let's copy this link. Maybe Bailey, if you can just put my slides up, then I can do it in StreamYard without you having to look at all my messiness on my screen. But that is my link to my homework website if you're interested. And Computer Science Education Week, Bailey, correct me if I'm wrong, it's December 9th to 13th. And it's just about exposing kiddos to all sorts of digital things like coding, design, because we're living in this modern digital world. So let's equip our kiddos with the skills. But we hope you really enjoyed this session on Gemini and Impactful Infographics. There is the link again, bit.ly/Impactful Infographics. Everything I created, except for my live demo, is all linked in there. So all those 8.5 by 11s on organization, student agency, What else we have? And we had quality work. Everything is linked in there. And I love the participation, like Julia and Robin. Thank you. Thank you. It was just like a pleasure to interact with you all today.
Yeah, thanks. I always love watching you design something. So thank you so much for walking us through your process. And thanks all of you out there for watching. Before you go, don't leave just yet. We really need your feedback. We take it so seriously here at Logic. So we'd love to hear not only how you learned from Emma today, but also if you have questions about other topics that you might like to see a Logix facilitator take up. So the link for that is bit.ly/Logix feedback. Please fill that in before you go. We have a 15-minute break in our day, and you likely have another fabulous session lined up for the next section. If you're watching from the future, it was a pleasure to have you here watching our recorded selves. We hope the future is bright, and thank you all. We'll have a great rest of your day. We'll talk to you again sometime soon.
Thanks, everyone.